If you've ever developed your own film at home, you probably have done some research into the chemicals and processes you're going to need in order to develop that particular film stock. And with that comes a rule which we never break. In that, we never really use black and white chemicals for color stocks or vice versa. Usually C41 is meant for color film stocks. However, this week I have an idea for you, and it's called Chromogenics. One thing they usually tell you when you start into film photography, and if you're going to do your own development, is to do your research into the chemicals you choose. Those chemicals really develop differently and work synergistically with the film stocks you choose, meaning that a certain type of film and a certain type of development process could give you different results. They also tell you never to develop your black and white chemicals in C41, which is made for chemical or color chemical development. But this week we're doing just that. I have a specific roll that's made to do this, and we're going to talk about the idea of chromogenic film. So let's talk about it. Chromogenic film specifically is a black and white film stock like Ilford's XP2 Super, made to be used with C41. It says so right on the film canister itself. The biggest difference with chromogenic film is that the color developer is not creating a color, but instead helping to reduce silver halide in the emulsion, that latent image, into metallic silver, which actually becomes the final or fixed image. Keep in mind, I know there's a lot more science and chemistry specifically in this concept that I didn't explain here, and probably because I wouldn't get it anyway.
You wouldn't understand.
But I think for the concept and context of this video, it does give us that basis that we need to understand in order to determine who this film stock might actually be for when we talk about chromogenic film being able to develop a black and white film stock in C41. Now, for those of you who don't know, one of the most readily available, most accessible film stocks out there that are chromogenic is Ilford's XP2 Super. It's a 400 speed ISO film made for an all-around kind of most case light source kind of film. And with that in mind, let's talk about the roll I shot in Charlotte. And with that behind us, let's talk pros and cons. Yahtzee. We've got black and white photos done in C41. How about that? Pretty crazy. With that, the major pro, of course, is the fact that we can simultaneously stack our C41 and our color stocks alongside XP2 Super in film development. And even more than that is the fact that you can do this without fear of loss of quality in subsequent films. Essentially meaning that you can put your C41 and your XP2 together and you don't have to worry about the next film stock you put through it being deteriorated just because you used XP2 Super. And then we have the con, which is in itself the C41 process needing a specific temperature. If we look at black and white development, there isn't a temperature aspect that we have to maintain through the process. Now the first step is the developer, and that's where Rodinal comes in. For this, we're going to talk about three things that we need to think about for developing using a developer. Time, temperature, agitation.
Time, temperature, agitation.
So, just for everyone out there, I did catch that mistake while editing this, of course, that I said that there was no temperature element to black and white. And of course that's not right, which is why I wanted to make this point that what I meant was there is a temperature element, but it is one with C41 that is much more strict. If you look at the little pamphlets you get with Cinestill's C41 kits, it even has a little asterisk at the bottom that says essentially processing at lower temperatures will result in reduced contrast and color separation. So it's not that there isn't a temperature element to black and white, just like there is to color. C41 though is a lot less forgiving in that aspect. You have to do it at 102 or else there's variance that could happen. Versus black and white, you can do it at like below room temperature at like 68 degrees. Or maybe that's room temperature. That's room temperature for me, just for you crazy people that run your house at like 75 degrees or whatever. But anyway, I just want to make that point that I did catch that. And I didn't mean that there wasn't one. It's just not as strict. So there you go.
Typically, when we start people into the development process, we show them black and white first because it is a little bit easier. So it's something to consider here in the fact that if we're going to put this specific film through C41, it is a little bit more difficult than your typical traditional black and white film stocks going in HC110 or some other black and white film developer. So that's up for you to determine whether you consider that a drawback or not. But for me, I think it is, because if there's going to be an issue or a failure, typically that could be somewhere in the process. I think it's going to deal with the temperature specifically. Thankfully, C41 and XP2 Super is very good. It has a very high latitude, meaning it gives you a lot of failure before it really ruins. But specifically, I think if we're taking it at face value that one process is a little bit easier than the other, I think we have to mention that in the fact that your black and white processes might be, in my opinion, just a smidge easier to learn than having to do it through C41. But that's for you to determine if that's really a drawback for you. But before you head out, don't forget, leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you're thinking about. If this concept resonates with you, if you thought about chromogenic film, if you've never thought about it, if you've ever seen this film stock, all of that stuff, let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget also to hit that subscribe button, the like button, because the channel helps, it helps the channel out, and I super appreciate it. But beyond all of that, I want to say thank you so much for sticking around, for checking this one out, and I appreciate everyone who has subscribed and been a part of the channel so far. And I will look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. Peace out.